Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the October 2024 edition of the AACAS Counterfraud Breakfast Roundtable. I'd like to introduce our first speaker in the person of Mr. Fiyinfolu Okedare.
Which can break your organization or break the security posture of your organization. So it's very important organizations invest in cybersecurity awareness. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Okedare. We spoke about quite a number of things, and in your discussion, you spoke about various types of attacks. You mentioned phishing emails, mentioned malware. I'd like to now speak to Mr. Ghazali on this. What are the most common types of cyber attacks, and how can employees detect and respond to them proactively?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Fumi. Thanks, everyone. Good morning, everybody. I'm absolutely delighted to be here today. I believe everybody can hear me, right? So,
yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, the last panelist actually was spot on, was able to take us around what cybersecurity is and the essential part of it. But the most important thing is that we need to understand all types of cyber attack that we're exposed to as end user. The truth of the matter is that we have lots of them. For example, if we go by the interest or the motive of the malicious actor, you'll be talking about financial gain, financial attack, but we're not actually interested in that. So let's talk about the specific cyber attack that we do have. We have what we call malware. Malware is called malicious software, from the word malicious for mal, and where is from the word software. So these are illicit, or let me just say illegal or compromised software that are activated either remotely or using different means on end user systems, either devices, network, or any kind of system the end user is using. And under malware, we have different forms of malware attack. We have what we call the ransomware attack. Ransomware is from the word ransom and software. It's a situation whereby the devices, the system devices, the network, and other IT infrastructures of IT infrastructure owners or end users' devices are being taken over. The data are encrypted so that the users cannot have access or the right of use of those data. And the malicious actor go ahead to demand for ransom payment. And that's why we have the word ransomware. Under the malware, we also have what we call rootkit. We also have what we call Trojan horses. We have what we call spyware. All these are other forms of malicious software that end users are exposed to. Beyond malicious software, we have what we call password attack. You see, end users are widely exposed to what we call password attack. We have what we call credentials. Users at one point or the other are requested to log in to make use of a particular facilities. You might be asked to put in your username and your password. So you have what we call login credentials. So all these credentials are exposed or are vulnerable to what we call attack. What are the type of attack? We have one password attack. We have what we call brute force attack. We have what we call dictionary attack. We have what we call social engineering attack. So as end users, we are exposed to what we call password attack. This can either be done actively against you or it can be done passively against you. Beyond that, also, we have what we call denial of service attack. Beyond denial of service attack, we have what we call distributed denial of service, that's DDoS. What are we talking about here? IT infrastructures, IT facilities are made unavailable to the rightful owner or rightful users of those infrastructures. If you look at the CIA triangle, we have what we call the confidentiality, we have what we call the integrity, and we have what we call availability. Availability is being addressed here because you observe that most time people want to patronize a particular platform, and at the end of the day, the platform is unavailable. So what has happened? It means is either that platform is witnessing what we call a downtime, right? So it means that the availability of that platform is questionable. So it's either that platform has been attacked through what we call denial of what? Service attack. That's the situation whereby you see there are overwhelming targeted websites, right? So a lot of servers, a lot of systems, they are being overwhelmed with requests. There's what we call packet requests. So when the system cannot handle those requests simultaneously, it is going to shut down. And that's why we encourage organizations, we encourage end users to do what we call stress testing. You have to stress test your facilities to be sure that they can take up what we call denial of service attack. There's what we call phishing as well. Phishing, it happens to end users when they receive unsolicited mail. Inside phishing, you observe that we have what we call malicious attachment or a particular link, and ignorantly, end user click on those links, end users, they click on those attachments, and at the end of the day, you are exposing yourself further. Under phishing, there's what we call spear phishing, and there's what we call whaling. Spear phishing is when you have a particular group you're actually targeting in an organization. But whaling, spear phishing is when you have a specific person you are targeting in an organization. But whaling, you are targeting a particular group in an organization. So in spear phishing, you might target a particular CEO. But in whaling, you can target the CFO, you can target the COO, you can target the CEO, right? So beyond that, maybe just to also close, I'll just close with what we call SQL injection, whereby we use programming skill to query the database, particularly a relational database, where the environment, we use it to extract what we call sensitive and juicy information. What do we do with those information? We modify them or we delete them. So with this, we are exposing or we are causing what we call negative impact on the information of the data owner. There's also what we call cross-site scripting. That has to do with injection of malicious script or code into web application. So this is actually particular to web application or web content, right? So it can be used to do what we call, you steal session cookies. Most of us, when we browse online, we pay particular attention to all this. There are situations where we have to accept cookies. So cross-site scripting is always a tool that is used to steal session cookies. We can also use it to spread malicious software. We can use it to deface website, right? So we can also use it to phish user credentials. So there are a lot of cyber attack that we have out there. But now straight to the question, how employees can detect and respond to cyber attack. Now, the first thing is to be aware of those signs of cyber threats. If you are not aware of those signs, you cannot.
Oh yeah, restriction of internet access.
So this whistleblowing is
Hello, can you hear me? Can somebody mute the participant talking, please? Can we all hear me, please?
Done that, please. Go on, Mr. Ghazali. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you very much. So as user of internet or IT facility, you need to be aware of signs of threat. You look for signs like a sudden network shutdown, an increase in spam emails, or what we call unauthorized data access or downloads. So as an employee, we need to be aware of this. The IT teams need to do what we call IT training. So in organization, we have what we call information assurance training that we give to staff and employees. We have to use what we call security controls or security solutions, like the SIEM, which calls CM. That's what security information and event management tools. We have the MDR, we have the XDR as well. We are going to flood this further as we go on in this presentation. We also have what we call behavioral analysis. Employees must be able to analyze the behavior of co-employees. You must know what they are doing. People started with security architecture of an organization must do what we call log audit, user log audit of every access they have on their critical network. You have to define security standards and control. There are policies that must be put in place by organizations, and this must be heavily understood by the employees of those organizations. Thank you for having me, Fumi, and everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Ghazali. That was very insightful. For people just joining us, we've been discussing so far why cybersecurity awareness is important and how it impacts an organization's ability to prevent and respond to threats. Pardon me. And Mr. Ghazali just spoke about common cyber attacks and how employees can detect and respond to them proactively. Those of us that have been listening, I'm sure we've gained a lot from the conversation so far. You can just let us know in the comment section what you've learned, kind of malicious attacks that we've spoken about, that Mr. Kidare and Mr. Ghazali have spoken about so far. So others that are joining can benefit from the conversation as well. So moving forward, I'd like Mr. Suarez to speak on this further. The world is now a global, place with technology. Technology has made the world very small. And now most people work remotely. Most people work in a hybrid workplace, work from home environments. So what are the specific cyber threats rather that arise in these kind of work environments, and how can organizations effectively mitigate this risk?
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope everybody can hear me. I think if we look back, we have always been operating in the cyberspace, but coming to the pandemic era and post-pandemic era, you see that notable organizations, including the Interpol, have reports that shows that cyber threats increased during the COVID era and post-COVID era. And that is because you realize that during that time, a lot of organizations had to transition into hybrid and remote work systems just to reduce the effect of physical contact. And some of the threats associated with working hybrid or from home or remotely is linked to the anonymity in the cyberspace and the freedom in the cyberspace. You don't have to use your real identity when you are connecting to the cyberspace. And also because there is no visa or passport needed for you to roam in the cyberspace. Almost everybody have access to it. And being that the internet was introduced to make the world a global village, you can connect from any location in the world. It's a good thing and a good addition. Technology came to solve a lot of problems, but also every good thing has its bad side. Criminals would always want to leverage on it to attack innocent and unsuspecting users or people. So some of the threats here is because a lot of organizations transition into hybrid and remote systems, and you connect it to the fact that a lot of research have shown that the more time you spend on the internet, either individually or as an organization, makes you more exposed to cyber attacks. Because if you stay longer on the internet, cyber criminals are also prowling to target you and to steal from you, either for financial gain or to take your data. So I think some of the threats has been mentioned, such as ransomware, DDoS, all the kind of attacks that have been mentioned earlier. And I think most of the problems, threats usually come from when a lot of organizations do not have policies in place. Those are the threats. So I believe that using strong passwords, for example, can help to navigate through these threats, because cyber criminals are everywhere. Recycled passwords are being used all around. Easy passwords, you find people combining their date of birth and first names as passwords. Working in a remote and hybrid environment, you need stronger passwords, particularly when you're not carrying out your own personal dealings. To further mitigate these threats that have been identified earlier by the previous speakers, I believe that having a policy, cybersecurity policy, in an organization can help to mitigate these threats of cyber attacks. And these policies must be well communicated at all levels in the organization. Furthermore, I think the use of virtual private networks can help to reduce these threats in workplace. You find out that research has shown that human error is the number one cause of cyber attacks in workplaces. So I believe that using virtual private networks and secure network and systems in an organization, and for employees to stick to it, can reduce the threats faced by organizations. And also, the use of encryption can help, because working remotely involves sharing a lot of files and data between employees at different layers and levels. So using encryption for files being shared can also help to mitigate the risk in workplaces, because you need some sort of passcode to decrypt any file that's being shared. It makes it more difficult for hackers or cyber attackers to compromise and steal such information. And also physical security of devices when not in use. We talk about cyber security a lot, but I believe that cyber security also starts from physical security. Because you find out that I handled a case, let me share an experience. I handled a case recently, and the attacker started with, he had IT knowledge, he read computer science, and he worked as a core member in one of the federal government institutions while he was undergoing his youth service, working in the IT department of the government institution. He had access, physical access to the devices of staff who were in the payroll department. So he was able to have access to the systems, and they did not shut down their system, going on breaks, coffee break, tea break, lunch break. They just left their systems accessible, no shutdown, no hibernating. It was easy for him to just get into the system. He uploaded different bank accounts in the payroll system, and for 3 years, he was receiving money even after completing his NYC. So I believe that cybersecurity starts with physical security. You don't just leave your device accessible. You need to shut it down if you're not using it. Disconnect from the internet, and you shut it down. Even with our mobile phones, you find out in workplaces, even your personal device, you leave your device and you go for 2-3 hours. I mean, it's a mobile device. You should move around with it, because if you look at one of the techniques used by fraudsters, even cyber fraudsters, they can use physical access first to steal your information. Shoulder surfing being one of the techniques. Someone can be spying on you to know what your password is. So, I mean, covering your space, securing your space where you have your devices that you use to access the internet in an organization is very important. So I believe that using these metrics or these techniques to secure your space, I believe that you can mitigate cyber attacks physically and also in the cyber world using these measures. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fares. That was very enlightening. We've spoken about securing your space, physical security being important, and human error, being one of the causes of cybersecurity threats. I hope we've, learned a lot from that conversation. So now the next question, I would like to throw this at all the panelists. We've been speaking about cybersecurity, we've been speaking about the threats. Now I would like to go on to, the cybersecurity culture while we're here. So before we move on to that, we'd like to know what's the difference between creating a strong cybersecurity culture and conducting cybersecurity training. Because I know a lot of people might, mix that up. What's the difference between cybersecurity culture, creating a cybersecurity culture, and conducting cybersecurity trainings? Mr. Okidare, you can go ahead to start, please.
Thank you very much, Fumi, for that question. While both cybersecurity training and creating a cybersecurity culture are essential for protecting an organization, yes, they serve distinct purposes and they both operate at different levels. So let me take a deep dive into cybersecurity culture. Its focus is more broader, with the organization, with having the organizational mindset in which states that cybersecurity is a shared responsibility of everyone within the organization. So, and it encompasses everyone and all aspects of the organization. So from executive leadership to employees to other stakeholders, vendors that even come into your environment. Having a good cybersecurity culture influences all these stakeholders' behaviors, attitudes, as well as their decision-making processes. And for cybersecurity culture, it is ingrained even within the daily operations of an organization. So whether you are in the IT department, or you are in sales or marketing, you are in finance, or you are in internal audit, cybersecurity culture is part of your day-to-day life. So just as your organization has its core values, for example, an organization can have core values of integrity, accountability, or name whatever example. The same thing, cybersecurity culture should be a core value within the organization. And taking it back to cybersecurity training, cybersecurity awareness training is just a subset within the entire cybersecurity culture value chain, where cybersecurity training or cybersecurity awareness can deal with impacting knowledge around cybersecurity threats vulnerabilities, or even best practices. And it can focus on topics like, okay, phishing, malware, password hygiene, and even incident reporting. And cybersecurity awareness training can be delivered in different ways, whether in formal sessions, classroom or workshop, webinars, or even online modules. But the objective of cybersecurity awareness training give each employee that necessary knowledge, the required skills for them to identify the cyber threat when it happens and know how to report such cyber incidents when they happen. So we cannot look at cybersecurity training alone in silo. We must look at it from a cultural standpoint. And whatever we are doing must be done on a periodic basis, not just one-off. So cybersecurity culture is all-encompassing, affects everyone, affects how we run our businesses, while cybersecurity awareness training goes the step further of educating employees periodically on how to spot cyber threats and how to report the incidents when they happen, so that the impact of that incident, should it be successful, the impact is reduced and there is no undue downtime for the IT infrastructure of such an organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Okidare. Mr. Suarez, you can go ahead.
Thank you. I would say that training, of course, teaches you how to know certain things. For going by training teaches you in terms of cybersecurity, teaches you the cyber threats that are evolving. Then it teaches you the techniques that you can use to counter these cyber threats, you know. So, but when you talk about culture, when you remove the word cyber culture or cybersecurity culture itself, it's a way of life. So the culture in the cybersecurity space or system or defense of an organization tells you the way that the organization wants to do things. It's ingrained, it's inherent. It makes you proactive. It shows you that this is the reason why we need to do this in a certain way. So for me, I believe that when you combine training and culture together, it gives you a stronger cyber defense system in an organization. If you compare it to how we are being trained as kids by our parents, they give us training to go through life, how to navigate through life. But when it comes to culture, they try to let you know why you have to do certain things in a certain way. So for me, I believe that culture gives you a proactive mindset. While training will teach you how, culture tells you why it has to be done. For example, the why there is that if you do not, for example, using a VPN to send emails or using an encryption, that is the culture, for example, in an organization. And why you have to do that being the culture is that it helps you to prevent cyber criminals from attacking you. It helps you prevent the resources of the organization, the data of the organization. So for me, I believe that training and culture should go together. It produces a strong culture of cybersecurity among the employees, which ultimately enhances the organization's resilience to cyber attacks and improves the adaptability against evolving cyber threats. So training alone would not suffice. If it's not the way of life, for example, or the culture or the way the organization does things, then the training will just be there. And the culture helps it to be ingrained in the employees. So without you being ingrained, being part of their lifestyle, their daily routine, they might lose it, even when the training is continuous. But the culture helps the training to stick, and it helps the employees to apply it from time to time. It makes them conscious for every step they take in the cyberspace, trying to perform their duties. They put it behind their mind that security first, the interest of the organization first. They know what to do if a situation arises, an incident occurs. Every step, they follow it, and they know why. They know the importance, and they know the consequence of not following that culture. So I think they're like Siamese, they go hand in hand. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Mr. Suarez. Mr. Ghazali, can you help us shed more light on this, please? Hi, Mr. Ghazali. Can you hear me? Can you help us shed more light on the question? So I think Mr. Ghazali might be having internet issues.
Thanks for having me.
Okay.
I'm speaking. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, so thanks for having me. I think the past two speakers have actually done justice to what we call cybersecurity culture and cybersecurity training. Actually, both are very important. They are complementary in nature. The truth of the matter is that I like the fact that Suarez spoke about culture being the way of life, which we all know that is the way of life. And we must understand that culture is the pointer, because no matter the level of training you have in place in an organization, if the corporate culture, the entire corporate culture, do not embrace cybersecurity as a culture. If you look at the pillars of cybersecurity in terms of cultural perspective, you talk about the people, you talk about the technology, and you talk about the process. These days, over 80% of the business processes of organizations are being digitalized or are being automated. So it means that our processes are heavily reliant on what we call IT infrastructures. So to go by, a positive cybersecurity culture is essential, because it is people that make an organization secure, not just technology and processes. If this culture is in place, people view security as a collective and collaborative endeavor. You see, training provides the prerequisite knowledge and skills that is required to recognize threats, to classify them, and respond accordingly. However, on the flip side, culture integrates these practices into daily action, making security a shared responsibility throughout the organization structure. The truth of the matter is that culture must be top-notch. Culture must be top-notch. As a consultant, I have seen situations, and also a forensic investigation, I have seen situations whereby employees of an organization, they are well trained, but they lack the prerequisite culture to act accordingly, according to their corporate requirement. If employees have been told at training level that please do not connect to public Wi-Fi while sending sensitive information remotely, because one of the things that have increased the attack surface of corporate world these days is that remote work and bring your own device is on the rise. So if the corporate culture do not factor in all those ethics, all those standards that must be heavily abided by employees, they are further exposed. For example, I'm very happy to share that as of today, the human error that contributes to cybersecurity or cyber attack is over 95%, according to IBM reports. So it means that through training and cyber culture, if we solve human error, human problem of cyber attack, you are invariably solving about 95% of every attack we have throughout the world. And it is interesting to let us know that as of today, the exposure is over 215 billion, which is about 14.3% on the rise. So what we are talking about is very important. Employee training is very important. There are situations where employees are sent on training. At the end of the day, you will not see value for all those things because the corporate culture is not paid attention to. It is through the corporate culture you observe that even from the board level to the employee level, everybody must act accordingly. So culture must be highly paid attention to, and not only employee training. Employee training is a subset of the culture, and cybersecurity must be infused into the corporate culture of an organization. These are interesting things that we need to actually pay attention to as we build our cybersecurity culture in the workplace. Thanks.
So much to our panelists for that. I'll just give a brief summary of what we've discussed so far. So we've discussed that cybersecurity is a shared responsibility. It encompasses everyone within the organization. It's supposed to be ingrained within the daily duties of people in the organization. It should be a part of, our day-to-day life. And it should also be a core value, the way we have values of integrity. Cybersecurity should also be seen as a core value. Another one that stuck out to me was culture being a way of life. It's Training teaches you the how, while culture teaches you the why. It makes employees conscious of why they're doing things in the first place. Culture is basically people viewing security as a collective and collaborative endeavor. The panelists have done such a great job in breaking down that question for us. The next question was very similar to the previous one, but I'd like to know if Mr. Suarez has anything to add. So it basically says, how does a strong cybersecurity culture go beyond just training? And why is it essential for an organization's resilience against cyber threats? Mr. Suarez, have you got anything to add to what you said so far?
Well, I think I should add something here. We have all hit the nail on the head, but I want to relate this to why it is important for culture and training to go hand in hand. Because when you look at cyber security awareness and culture in an organization, if an organization does not have a proper cybersecurity culture, I mean, it is let's say you and I that suffers it. Let's use the banks as an example. In my line of work, I see a lot of complaints about unauthorized withdrawal from bank accounts of bank customers. And to me, I believe that in these organizations, banks, they have a weak cybersecurity culture. And I believe that all they do is train their staff a lot on cybersecurity, but the culture is not there. Because if the culture is there, which we have talked about, the way of life of doing things in the cyberspace for the organization, I believe that their employees will be more ingrained into why they have to protect or key into the culture of the organization. I believe that they have a culture, but the problem is that it's not being ingrained. They are not letting their employees know why, the importance, why they should be ingrained in the culture, adopt it being a way of life. So for me, I believe that we customers of institutions, organizations that rely a lot on technology to operate, like the banking system, we are more of the victims. And so I think going from here and looking at how exposed customers of banks are to cyber attacks, I believe that it is clear that if banks can have a strong culture, cybersecurity culture, along with the training, and that is where the most important thing is, the training and the culture, I believe that there will be mitigated cyber attacks on bank accounts of customers, and our money can be safer. So for me, I believe the organizations, if there are any participants here that work in the banking industry, organizations that rely on technology, I think what they should be taking back is that the culture in their organizations should be well sounded, and they should create, not just say these are the policy, because the policies of the organization, that's where you get the culture from, because they will tell you why you need to do certain things. So I believe that we should all go back and tell our organizations that, look, let's explain more. Let's justify why we have to do this thing. Let's let our employees know why this is very, very important for us to do. Because you cannot be in the cyberspace. You must know that you are not alone in the cyberspace in the first place. So you must be able to protect yourself, protect your organization. Because once you log onto the internet, I mean, you're not safe. That's just the truth. The cyber threat is there. Cyber criminals are prowling. So that's enough reason for us to know that the culture has to be there. It must be our way of life, personally and in an organization. So that's what I need to add. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. We all know now that knowing why is very, very important. We're not alone in the cyberspace, and we should be thinking of protecting ourselves, protecting our organizations. If you don't currently know the why, you need to go asking questions. So, in knowing the why, I'd like to move on to Mr. Ghazali. What are the characteristics that define a positive and effective cybersecurity culture within an organization?
Yeah, thank you very much for me once again. Every cybersecurity posture have those ingredients that define how effective or inadequate they are, right? So an effective cybersecurity culture is actually built on transparency, consistent communication, and shared accountability, right? Now, organization needs clear policies, regular security update and active involvement from leadership. So that's when you go to organization, you hear about steering committee, right? They must be involved in your cybersecurity journey, because a positive cybersecurity culture includes open channels for reporting incidents without fear or blame. And cybersecurity practices become a seamless part of everyday work. So what we are talking about is that your policy, your security policy must be top-notch. They must be clear. They must not be too vague. And that's why when you see cybersecurity culture, you must not have a lot of jargons in it. Employees must be able to comprehend what you are talking about, right? So, because you are talking about sensitive or critical business operation lines. So, securing those things, your communication channels must be top-notch. It must be swift and it must be clear. So what we're talking about is that you have to talk about training completion rate as well. It is very important. It's an effective indicator. What is the completion rate of the training programs for employees? You must make sure you assess them. Their training needs must be gotten. And you see, most of the time we observe that employees are wrongly trained. Organizations do not know the required or the appropriate training to give to their employees. Cybersecurity training is very, very significant. But are you evaluating the content of those trainings? Because there is no one size fits all. Security is peculiar, right? So you cannot just adopt a particular security program that is used in a particular sector and bring it to your own organization. You must understand the sector, the kind of asset you also have, right? And the level of your exposure. We'll talk about that as we move ahead. But training completion rate is an indicator of what? Of effective cybersecurity rate. Another thing is, what is the level of phishing simulation success rate? You have trained your employees. What about the testing aspect of it? We're not talking about full penetration testing here. A particular one that relates to employee is the social engineering attack. So are you doing what we call phishing simulation training or phishing simulation testing? So you look at that, you train numbers of employees, you try to what? To simulate a real life attack on them so that you can see who can correctly handle simulated phishing attempts. Another thing is that you have to do what we call employee cybersecurity assessment scores, right? So for every employee that is exposed, and for every employee that failed any simulation test, you have to do we have to have what we call scorecard assessment. You have to assess them, and you have to communicate their performance to them so that they can build on that, right? Another thing you need to do is that your campaign awareness program, how top-notch are they? Are they only related to only IT department and people that handle sensitive information? It must be organization-wide. So these are things you use to assess effective cybersecurity culture in an organization. And board members must also be involved because they must be a role model, right? So, but to keep it close with respect to positive and effective cybersecurity culture, you must do what we call training completion rate assessment. You must do phishing simulation success rate for your employee. And you must do what we call cybersecurity assessment. So these are very, very critical and very, very germane because, as I've said earlier, technology does not only drive cybersecurity. People are involved. And the social aspect is the most important aspect of it. I stated that 95% of cyber attack is as a result of human error. So if you can fix that, you have fixed a whole lot of your exposure, a whole lot of your vulnerability. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Ghazali. I can see that some people have been dropping questions in the chat. We're taking note of your questions. For anyone that has questions, please do the same. And at the end of the conversation, we'll go on to answering your questions. So now I'll move on to Mr. Okidare. What practical steps can organizations take to create and maintain a culture of cybersecurity at all levels of the workplace? I know Mr. Ghazali has spoken on cybersecurity policies and making them clear. And I would love you to, expand a bit on this for us.
Thank you very much for me. So the very first step that I would say is very critical to creating and maintaining a culture of cybersecurity is significant leadership commitment. Executive management at all levels, from the managing director, board of directors, all the various committees must actively demonstrate their commitment to cybersecurity. And how can this be done? By prioritizing cybersecurity discussions in meetings and even in decision making. So, for example, appropriate resources, sufficient resources should also be allocated to cybersecurity initiatives. For example, from the budget of the entire organization, what aspect of it is assigned to cybersecurity? Taking a step forward from that budget, how about the personnel that are in charge of the various cybersecurity initiatives across the organization? Are those personnel, are they well qualified? Are they properly experienced? Again, is there appropriate training for these subject matter experts that are protecting the digital jewels resident in your organization? We all say that IT or technology is the driver of the business. Technology keeps driving the business. However, are we securing that technology that is driving our business to ensure that at all times the confidentiality, integrity, and also availability of these IT assets are maintained? Again, your cybersecurity policy itself, when last was it reviewed? We have different subject matter experts on this call. These are few practical takeaways that you can act on immediately. Is there a cybersecurity policy within your organization? It is the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. When was that cybersecurity policy? When last was it reviewed and updated? Speaking also to executive management support, when last was that cybersecurity policy, when was it distributed? When was it shared to all staff within the organization so it can serve as a reminder to them? And for example, how are we tracking compliance and accountability with these cybersecurity policies? Let's take a step away from that. Let's look at the cybersecurity tools and technologies that is resident within your organization. Depending on the sector in which your organization plays, whether you are in the financial services industry, you are in FMCG, telecommunications, or even public sector, there is need for your organization to implement strong security tools that can protect your organization from any form of attacks. So whether it's your firewalls, whether it's your antivirus software, whether it is intrusion detection systems or intrusion prevention system, or even email security solutions that can be implemented, and these tools will be monitored periodically to ensure they are actually protecting the entire IT environment of your organization. So you have a lot of those tools. Are there regular updates on those softwares, on those tools, to ensure that latest patches and updates are gotten so that those tools can perform their functions as it's supposed to be? Lastly, developing a cybersecurity culture involves proper incident response and incident recovery. Is there a documented plan for incident response? That is the very first step. That plan that you have documented, that if this happens, this is the step A, B, C, D that we are expected to do as an organization. When last was that plan? When last was it tested? What were the lessons learned? when that incident response plan was tested. So whether you are looking at it from a business continuity plan or even a disaster recovery plan, as the case may be, now you've tested those different plans. How are you able to communicate? Are your communication channels that users, whether they are employees, whether they are vendors, whether they are third parties, that they want to report whether it's a cybersecurity incident, do they know all these channels? Are those channels themselves, are they working effectively? And when reports are submitted to those various channels, what is the turnaround time for responding to those incidents, to those reports? How was the turnaround time? How quickly are such systems that are being attacked, how are they promptly quarantined from the entire network? Is an in-depth assessment of such system that was compromised. How soon is the review of such systems? How soon is it done? What are the steps that your incident responders, your IT subject matter experts, your cybersecurity experts, how soon are they responding to these threats? Now, even if the threat is successful, who manages the communication in-house, even to staff or to third parties, to press, social media, when some of these attacks finally happen? So when everyone across the value chain within the organization is running with the little aspects that they are assigned to when it comes to cybersecurity, it shows the culture, it shows the way of life that each staff across the entire organization, their activities when it comes to cybersecurity and how they can consistently take practical steps to create this strong cybersecurity culture that will empower employees to protect not only the sensitive information within the organization, but minimize the risk that can crystallize from these cyber attacks. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Okidare. I'll just like to dwell on you a little bit. So initially you spoke about, the tone at the top, how executives need to be very involved and committed to making cybersecurity decisions. Can you please, expatiate on it? How can board members, executives, management, and staff contribute to fostering a robust cybersecurity culture? And what unique roles do they play?
All right. Thank you very much. So board members should provide that strategic oversight, set the tone at the top by prioritizing cybersecurity initiatives and taking the way the entire organization is interested in the revenue that is coming in. The same way, whatever the Chief Information Security Officer is saying, the board must listen to it and they must run with it without discounting, it is just security. You guys are just a cost center. Whether they are a cost center, irrespective of the technology that you have put in place, the day anything goes wrong, the day availability is impaired, the day confidentiality is implied, or the integrity of your database is affected, that is when at times some organizations now see the effect of the cybersecurity experts. But do we want to wait till then? That is why that strategic oversight is very, very important. Again, resource allocation. Is there sufficient budget for cybersecurity initiatives, ranging from technology to the people, as well as to the periodic subject matter expert trainings for all these cybersecurity subject matter experts that are resident within the organization? Again, is risk management. Is board members on top of risk management when it comes to the cybersecurity landscape? Just as technology keeps improving, hackers, script kiddies on the dark web continue to look for more ways in which they can actually attack or cause a threat to organizations that are their targets. Hence the reason that you don't just do risk assessment one-off and move ahead. but periodic risk assessment of your entire IT environment. The board members must drive that risk assessment. And board members must also champion compliance initiatives when it comes to cybersecurity. So whether it is driving the implementation of various cybersecurity standards, whether it's ISO 27001, for example, business continuity management, and whether it is NIST or GDPR, depending on the sector where your organizations play. So when board members, when they create that strategic oversight, proper resource allocation, and periodic risk assessment of the entire IT environment, it gives that high-level support for cybersecurity, and it ensures that the robust cybersecurity culture of the organization is maintained from time to time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. I'd like to know if any of our panelists have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Fumi. I think I have something to add, particularly to the board members and contribution to cybersecurity. You see, advanced organizations or advanced countries, they've come up with what we call board toolkits, right? And there's the particular toolkits that are dedicated to board members of every organization on how to be involved in cybersecurity culture. You see, the truth of the matter is that governance is very, very important in cybersecurity. And board members, they are the owner of corporate governance. So they have to take this seriously. So I appreciate what the former speakers spoke about, resource allocation, spoke about being involved. Those are the necessary things that every organization must ensure. Another very important point to mention here is recruitment. You see, board members must be well informed in terms of recruiting appropriate employees to a specific role, especially in terms of cybersecurity. Sometimes, you see, most organizations, you see, when we talk about recruitment, you see, it is a governance issue because vulnerability is high at the point of what? Entrance. So when you're onboarding your employees, the terms of you doing due diligence, we know it's the management function to do all that, but the board must be heavily involved because creating a strong cybersecurity leadership is a commitment and must be championed from the board level. So talking about that, we have what we call setting the tone at the top, which has also been spoken about. Another thing we need to take advantage of, what we need to take note of, is training the leaders. What are the training leads or the training needs of the C-suite employees? The like of the chief executive officer, the chief operating officer, the chief financial officer, what are their training needs? These training needs are expected to be approved by the board. What we are talking about is that the cybersecurity training need of the organization must be paid attention to by the board. These must be timely approved and must be assessed for effectiveness. I love the fact that the last speaker spoke about about incident response plan. Incident response plan must not only be put in place, as they have said, it must be reassessed from time to time because security should be assessed for adequacy and for effectiveness. So your security may be effective as of today, but it may not be effective as of tomorrow. So the governance must make sure that assessment of what controls put in place to combat cyber exposure are effectively updated. Another thing we need to look at is what are those red flags, especially the post-implementation. You see, most of the time we talk about let's deploy first and protect later. No. At the point of automation, security must be taken seriously. So the board members must be involved in terms of what automation as at the outset. So when we are deploying any IT infrastructure as of today, we must put security as part of the design. Security must not come later. So when we get to meet, we have a lot to talk about on that. But as we have said, management or the board must be put into recognition as at the time of taking what requirement need. So board members have active role to play at the outset. They set the tone, they create a cybersecurity conscious culture, they prioritize information security, they train the leaders, and they communicate in a clear manner the company's corporate culture. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
Before
if I may
Mr.
add something.
Suarez goes ahead to answer this question, I'll just like you, in addition to what everybody has said, just go ahead to speak on how organizations can measure the effectiveness of the cybersecurity culture they've put in place, and what metrics can they use for tracking improvement. In addition to that question, please help us, answer that alongside it. Thank you.
Can you come again? Which question do you want me to answer?
Okay, so I said in addition to speaking on the role of the board management and other staff in implementing an effective cybersecurity culture, can you also speak on the measures of effectiveness of that culture?
Okay.
That culture and what metrics are useful for tracking improvement?
I just wanted to emphasize a little bit on the issue of recruitment mentioned by the last panelist, which I believe is very important. And I'm speaking from the angle of law enforcement, and I'm relating it to the increase in cybercrime in Nigeria, which is hugely financially motivated. If you check the statistics of convictions recorded by the AFCC in the last 5 years, you will find that nearly 10,000 Nigerian youths, including graduates, have been convicted of various forms of financially motivated cybercrimes. And I'm saying this recruitment, which is very important, because I would admit that there's really no robust, a thorough, exhaustive criminal database in Nigeria to check who has been convicted or not of a particular kind of crime. And because there's a lot of transitioning from the physical space to the virtual space now, criminals have transitioned from the physical space to the cyberspace to commit crimes because of the freedom, anonymity, and less risk. So I believe that organizations today, there's really no organization that doesn't dwell in the cyberspace or use the internet to carry out their business. I think for recruitment, which is very important, we know that a lot of Nigerian youths are now tech savvy. You don't even need to be a graduate to be tech savvy. So I think organizations, in trying to bolster their cyber security culture and system, they should ensure that they don't employ criminals, because you can find someone that is competent, to help your cybersecurity system. However, the person may have ulterior motives because the person may have a past criminal record in cybercrime. So I believe organizations should try to do due diligence. You can just do an open source search, for example. Names of convicts of cybercrime offenses are usually published after conviction. I mean, just searching a potential employee's name, it can give you 1 or 2 leads and may just help you not to bring in the wrong employee to mount your cybersecurity system within your organization. So that's what I wanted to add in that regard. Measuring the effectiveness of cybersecurity culture. Well, for me, I believe that measurement is very key in any kind of strategy that you are putting in place in an organization, particularly when it comes to cybersecurity, because it may determine the success or failure of a business. If you do not measure, you just put in place. And particularly in a hybrid and remote working situations now, you must make sure that your cybersecurity culture is effective regularly. And one of the metrics is to carry out what I will call behavioral analysis of your employees to see how they conform with the culture of the organization and how they abide by it. And there are different metrics that you can use. For example, incident response has been mentioned a lot. There are different times when cyber threats may occur in an organization or attacks. And you need to be able to measure the time within which there's a response from your cybersecurity team or department to try to mitigate or stop that attack. because the internet, I mean, with one click of a button, a lot can go wrong. A bunch of data can be stolen. A lot of money can be lost. But a quick response time, for example, when such attacks are attempted, it can help to really mitigate the consequence of the effect of the law or the loss that may be suffered by that organization, which is good. When you check your incident response time to check if the time within which response are being given to such attacks or threats are good enough to stop the threat. And also the rate of reported phishing attempts, for example. One of the ways that cyber criminals attack organizations is phishing ranks high, and you deal with emails a lot in organizations where you rely on technology. So you share emails, you share files and documents, and these are the ways that cyber criminals use to infiltrate organizations through their employees, sharing of attachments that are infested with malware and different kind of viruses. So for me, if an organization, for example, gets a lot of phishing attacks or threats, I believe that is one of the ways that you can use to measure whether your cybersecurity culture is effective or not, because your employees should have known that part of the policy, for example, is that you should not click links or download attachments that are not from known sources or known senders, for example. So it shows that that culture in the organization at that time, cybersecurity-wise, may not be effective. And that means they need to go back and ingrain some of the culture in staff and do more training as well. They go hand in hand. Another way is employee participation in training. You find out that from my own understanding and my experience, a lot of organizations, employees they believe training is just one of the routines, just to get it done. But there should be some sort of survey after training, for example, to measure the knowledge base, particularly in terms of cybersecurity, to know what the employees have learned from the training, for example, and how they've participated, the effectiveness of the outcome of the training, to know that they've actually learned something, they've gained something that can be transferable and applied in the course of securing the cybersecurity system and files of the organization. Another way is tracking adherence to policies. Of course, we've talked about policies a lot, cybersecurity policies, what the organization wants to be done in certain situations. If it's obvious or it becomes clear that policies are not being followed or adhered to by employees, it shows that the culture is weak. It shows that the culture is not strong enough. It shows that the employees do not understand why they should adhere to those policies and the consequences of not adhering to those policies. So that can be checked as well to measure whether the culture is effective and strong. And also we look at, someone has talked about simulation of phishing tests. I mean, if you compare, cybersecurity became a very big thing because of the reliance on technology. But let me link it to physical security to start with. I work in law enforcement, of course. Let me say, if law enforcement, let's say the police force, they acquire new ammunitions, for example, to counter traditional crime. You understand what I'm saying? And they should be able to go through some testing of the weapon to see what the weapon can actually do. So in measuring your cybersecurity culture, for example, you've put policies in place, you've put mechanisms technically in place to defend you from such attacks. So you should be able to test the cybersecurity defense that you have put up to see how effective it is. And that is how you will know the gaps that you have, the lapses that you have, and how to get it better, make it more stronger to resist cyber attacks. So for me, I think using these metrics can help organizations to measure their cybersecurity culture, and they can improve on it if they do that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Suarez. We'll now go on to the last question, and then we'll now take questions from our participants. Kindly put your questions in the comment section so we can just go right ahead into that when we're done with this particular question. So this is for our panelists. We've spoken about what cybersecurity is, cybersecurity culture, importance of trainings, the responsibilities of everyone in the organization, how we can measure the effectiveness of whatever features we put in place. We'd now like to know what steps and the strategies involved in building and reinforcing the culture, the cybersecurity culture within the organization. So, Mr. Okidari, you can go ahead to start. Then Mr. Ghazali and Mr. Suarez, you can round up for us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Fumi. I will speak on at least two key ways in which an organization can reinforce their cybersecurity culture. The first I will talk about is open communication and feedback. Creating a culture where employees feel comfortable with asking questions about cybersecurity. Yes, you've done a lot of trainings, right? But in case they see something strange on their system, are they comfortable to escalate such? Do they know the right channels to report those issues to? Now, when a cyber attack, for example, is escalated, do we celebrate the success of such escalation? Do we recognize and reward such employees for their little contributions into cybersecurity? Now, taking a step away from that is also continuous improvement on the different cybersecurity measures that the organization has put in place. And how can these continuous improvements be more specific? First, periodic assessments. So whether it's you are carrying out vulnerability assessments and penetration testing, these are the same skills, the same method in which hackers, black hat hackers, that they use to strike an organization. But this time around, a reconnaissance is done. And from the information gathered on the internet about a particular organization, that is used to now move to the second stage, which is the penetration and testing if, for example, information gathered on the internet, passwords can be used to brute force into an organization's environment. But why is VAPT important? Because the weaknesses that you found can be documented and can be remediated immediately. So whether they are weak passwords, or whether they are open ports, or whether there are other physical security weaknesses within your organization, they can be promptly remediated. Again, is adaptive security, staying up to date with the latest trend of threats and the vulnerabilities within the new technologies that you are about to implement is also very, very important. So if continuous improvement, open communication and feedback is significantly encouraged within an organization, I am certain that it will also reinforce the cybersecurity posture of that organization, and knowing that every staff within the organization is responsible when it comes to cybersecurity. We are not leaving it alone for those in IT. We are not leaving it alone for executive management, but we are ensuring that right from your guest relationship officer to your cleaners to your frontline workers and to even internal audit or any department, each person is responsible for upholding cybersecurity initiatives that has been established within the organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Okidari. Mr. Ghazali, can you go ahead, please?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I think it's very important for an organization to always reinforce their cybersecurity culture. The most important to me, as far as I'm concerned, is the automation, right? You see, control needs to be automated. In as much as we have spoken about the need for human aspect to be paid attention to in terms of training, building cybersecurity culture, I think it is very significant for control to be automated in the cyberspace. And we have a lot of tools out there. We have the SIEM, which I've spoken about before, the Security Information and Event Management tool. Under that, we have things like the Splunk, Elastic, and log reading. These are used to provide real-time threat detection and response capabilities. So businesses need to understand that the way they combat cybercrime last year is not the way they are doing that this year, because the attack landscape is evolving. So our culture, our control process must also evolve. We've spoken about remote work. We've spoken about cloud computing. So what does that mean? It means that the endpoint detection and response plan, which work with the EDR, such as the VMware Carbon Black that we make use of. We make use of what we call CrowdStrike also, is a tool that is used to protect the endpoint. This can help us have more visibility into endpoint activities and help detect and respond to attack. So I'm talking about automation because you cannot combat cybercrime manually. You need to automate your control because your controls need to be real-time. As we have spoken about that web, we have spoken about our threat actors. They are evolving on a daily basis, right? So our controls need to be automated. People need to be saddled with those responsibilities. As much as we are combating external threat, what about the insider threat? We are talking about employment, and I love the fact that another panelist also spoke about that. So we also need to strengthen our network security, right? We have a lot of tools to handle that. We have the Palo Alto network, we have the Trellix, we have a lot of Fortinet tools out there. Vulnerability management is also very, very important. We have Rapid7 and Qualys that deal with all that. What about the threat intelligence platform? All these are very necessary. We've spoken about the intrusion detection system and the intrusion prevention system. All these are automation, and we must pay absolute attention to them because they are very necessary. They provide context and insight into threat actors. It helps us to know their motives and the method they are going to make use of. And that will lead me to the fact that there is a knowledge-based framework that has been adopted by multinationals, that have been adopted by organizations, by countries like the US, the UK, Canada, and some other countries that are in the cyberspace. So we have what we call the Mitra attack. The Mitra attack helps us to what? To diffuse the cyber chain, right? The cyber kill chain was introduced by what? By Lockheed Martins in the year 2015, if I'm not making a mistake. So these recognize the step-by-step cyber attack that every organization is exposed to, right? Right from reconnaissance to resource development, initial access, until you get to lateral movement, exploitation, command and control, exfiltration, and impact. But as an organization, you may not understand this, but there are frameworks that have been developed, and now we imbibe every cybersecurity expert or every cybersecurity analyst out there to make sure that they understand Mitra attack. Is a plug and play. It's just for you to understand it and at least try to replicate such in your organization. We have the Mitra attack, we have the CN. All these are frameworks that you can adopt. You have all other controls because, as I've stated earlier, there is no one size fits all. You have all other controls you can also adopt. But in the advent of the fact that we are talking about artificial intelligence, we are talking about machine learning, this has further exposed us. You can imagine sensitive items that are being imputed into ChatGPT on a daily basis. We have the botnet, we have ChatGPT, we have the WeChat, a lot that people put sensitive information into, right? We have the Gemini, right? We have a lot of artificial intelligence out there that are producing sensitive data on a daily basis. You cannot match that with manual effort. You need to automate your detection platform. You need to automate your response platform, right? So these are things that we must put in place in order to stay ahead of malicious actors. We need to fully automate our control system, and somebody must be charged with that responsibility of doing what? Of monitoring, of analyzing, and of bringing out every red flag for communication, for discussion, and for management decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Ghazali. Over to you, Mr. Suarez.
Yes, a lot has been said. We've talked, and the panelists, co-panelists have talked about leadership, clear policies, training, and other things that can help to improve the strategy and steps to be taken by organization to build an effective cybersecurity culture. But I'll be adding it and topping it up from the angle of the employee, because from leadership to open communication and training, it is all for the employees. They are the ones who embody the culture of the organization and they implement it. So for me, I believe that the culture, which is the way of life, and cybersecurity culture, which is the way that the organization wants to operate in the cyberspace and how they want to protect themselves. I believe that employees that do not conform or do not embody that culture, do not live or go by the cybersecurity culture of the organization, I think they should not be a part of the organization. I'm saying this because a successful cyber threat or cyber breach can bring the existence of an organization to an end. And it can also expose them to civil liabilities, because most of these organizations we talk about, they're into the business for profit. And profit means that they are dealing with the funds of the public. So for me, I believe that employees, there should be no sympathy or sentiment when it comes to employees that do not embody the culture, cybersecurity culture of an organization, because they become a huge problem and a threat. If there are policies to be followed at different levels of authorization or departments, and there's an employee that has been found wanting more than once to have breached the cybersecurity policy, or not to have abide by the culture of the organization in terms of cybersecurity, I believe such employees should no longer be a part of the organization, because you cannot say that a culture is part of you, yet you don't demonstrate it. So for me, organizations should stop showing empathy when it's not necessary, because when you show empathy to an employee that does not embody or abide by the rules or policies of cybersecurity in an organization, it becomes a threat, and one day it may bring the organization to an end. So I'm saying this because I've seen bank employees who have been responsible for cybersecurity breaches in banks, and some of them are still working.
I think Mr. Flores is having issues with his internet. Can we just give him a minute, please, before we head on to questions? I've only seen 2 questions in the comment section. If you do have any questions, if you don't want to type it, you can raise up your hand so you can ask your question as well.
Today, and the losses that they
Sorry, Mr. Suarez. Sorry, Mr. Suarez, we lost you for a bit. You were talking about where there was a person who breached cybersecurity protocol in a bank, and he was still employed, so we lost you.
Yes. So I was saying that bankers are guilty of that a lot, and you find out that they are still in employment. I believe that when employees have been equipped, you've been trained, the organization has tried to ingrain the culture in you. You know what to do. You know why you have to do it. But yet you are found to still be breaching policies. You're not abiding by the culture. I believe that it gets to a point where you let such employees go, because cybersecurity is like the heart of an organization that relies on technology to operate. Because if you check the statistics, according to Verizon, 2023 alone, cyber breaches, 74% of them were caused by human error from employees. So I believe that I think there should be a tolerance level of such breach internally for cybersecurity policies and culture by an organization. You don't keep such employees around you. At some point, you have to let them go, bring in employees that can abide by policies and that can demonstrate and embody the culture, cybersecurity culture of the organization. That's what I want to add. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all our panelists. I think we've had a very, very insightful conversation surrounding building a culture of cybersecurity in the workplace. I'm sure we've all learned a thing or two we can immediately implement in our organizations as we go back. We've understood that, knowing the why is quite important. We shouldn't just set policies. We need to know the why. Training is important. The training is the how. Cybersecurity is the why. Cybersecurity culture, rather, is the why. So we'll now head on to questions. I believe we might have addressed this question in our conversation. However, we will just run through it. This is from Mr. Olumiwa Abaton. I hope I pronounced your name right. What are the best cybersecurity plans we can design for an organization? Any one of our panelists can go on to answer the question, please. Can we hear me?
Yeah, you said what are the best cybersecurity plan that what?
That we can design for an organization.
Okay, I think that's a very important question by the participant. Now, most importantly, as I've stated earlier, and some of the panelists have also stated, there is no one size fits all. You need to understand the sector you operate. You need to understand your specific segment. Now, we have what we call regulatory requirements. You must understand all those regulatory requirements that are peculiar to your organization. For banks, for example, we have the PCDISS, right? So the PCDISS that affect card processing, that affect financial transactions. For those in the health sector, we have what we call the HIPAA Act that talks about the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. And for those in other sectors also, there are other regulation or regulatory requirements that guides them. So the first thing to do is to understand those regulatory requirements. In Nigeria, we have the Data Protection Act as well. So if you have understanding of all those things, if your organization process European citizens' data, you must understand GDPR as well. So you must understand those regulatory frameworks that are applicable to your organization. And the second thing to do is to domesticate them. The question is that how do you domesticate? Domesticating any regulatory requirement, any policies or standard is to look at your business processes. What are those things internally on a day-to-day basis? You now have to plug those processes to meet up with those regulatory requirements, to those standards, to those policies. The third thing to do is to assign responsibility of monitoring. Somebody must be responsible for monitoring those checklists. Right. You must have done automation, as I've stated earlier. But in trying to build your cybersecurity culture, the most important thing before regulatory blah, blah, is to look at your assets that you own. You must understand the assets you own. You must classify them based on criticality, based on the information they process. Because as we have stated in the cybersecurity roadmap, you cannot protect what you don't know. So you must identify those critical assets that you own and you operationalize. You must categorize them based on sensitivity. Oh, this is a critical asset to us. So you must now look at how those global regulatory policies, those domestic policies, those international policies, those policies standards affect them. And you make sure you protect them by coming up with what? Controls that can better protect them from operational perspective, from strategic perspective, and from technical perspective. So the first thing you must do as an employee or as a cybersecurity expert is to ensure that the process in identifying critical assets in your organization, they are clear. Because if you don't know the assets you have, how do you know how to protect them? So identifying critical assets is very, very important. The next thing is to have understanding of the regulatory framework that deals with those assets. The first thing is to domesticate those regulatory framework in terms of your business operations, your business processes. The fourth thing, you automate your control by assigning responsibility. You assign what we call technical control. You assign what we call physical control. Right. Your logical control needs to be top-notch. And the fifth thing, make sure you monitor. And as you monitor, what are you trying to do? You are trying to detect anomalies, right? And when you detect anomaly, what do? You contain or you respond. That's interest. And the last thing you now do is to recover if at all there is any breach. So, as you have stated, this is the open roadmap, but you must tailor it down to your own specific operation, right? So, as I have stated earlier, you identify your critical assets you operate. The next thing is to classify them. The third thing, which you may not find in maybe in articles, or is to see how you understand regulatory framework that supports, that guide those assets or your business operation. The next thing to do is to domesticate by assigning controls to those things internally. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ghazali. I believe that has answered your question, Mr. Olumuyiwa.
The one I clear is so. That's what I have.
Okay, moving on to the next question. I'd like Mr. Suarez to answer. Then the final one, Mr. Okedare, can go ahead to answer, please. Okay, I think we actually have 4 questions. So the next question, can you answer, Mr. Suarez? In most cases, you need to accept cookies before you can access some websites. How do you know which cookies to accept and not to accept?
Thank you. Yeah, well, some websites you need to accept cookies before you even allow access to the website. So, and some websites will allow you go to settings to determine the kind of cookie you want to accept. So I think you can accept only relevant cookies to operate on the website. And personally or generally, when you accept cookies, I mean, you're making yourself vulnerable. Of course, you're giving permissions to share data and other information about yourself. So personally, for me, I don't access websites that I don't need. If I can do without those websites, honestly, if I log on to a website and I see accept cookies, accept all cookies, you don't give me option to choose the cookies I want to accept. I'll move on and find other ways to get my activity done on the internet. So I believe that you can go to cookie settings on the website and see the kind of permissions or access you want to give in the form of your data before you continue to surf that website. I think that's the best way to go about it. If you really have to surf that website or do what you have to do there. So, yes, that's my contribution.
Thank you. I think this next question is also for you, because during our conversation, you spoke about a website that you can search for staff information or for people who have committed cyber crimes, something along those lines. So someone is asking, please, which sites you use to search potential staff to employ?
Okay, well, in Nigeria currently, there is really no robust platform or database for convicted persons generally. Then, since we're talking about cybersecurity, we'll limit it to cyber criminals. However, if you go to the AFCC's website, you will see a column where we always publish convictions record for each year. You can find as far back as 5 years ago. I believe the names are there. The names of the convicts are there. The nature of the offense, you find it there. Their punishment and where they were tried and sentenced. So you can always access it from our website. It's downloadable in a PDF format, so you can easily search through the document. If the name of your potential employee that you're screening doesn't pop up, I mean, you can proceed. I mean, you've not found anything. And in addition, you can just run open source search just through Google, because when we make arrests or we secure the convictions of economic criminals, including cyber criminals, which the youth, I mean, vast majority of, the names will pop up. If you search the name of your potential employee on Google, I mean, just Google search, anything related to that name will obviously pop up. And if the person has actually been arrested by my office before for cybercrime, since it's what we're talking about, it will pop up, arrested or convicted. You always find it because we always report it, arrest and conviction. So that may help you to know the type of person you are trying to employ. And also there's a platform that we partnered with. It's called WAPIS. WAPIS means West African Police Information System. So you can find information of convicted persons by the AFCC on that platform as well. So those are the three ways I believe you can try to conduct background check and due diligence on potential employees. I mean, due diligence or background check doesn't mean that you find everything 100%, but it's just you doing what you have to do to make sure that you're bringing in someone with integrity and someone who has no criminal record or maybe an arrest record to your organization to mount your cyber security defense system. So that's it. I hope I've been able to assist you some way.
Thank you so much, Mr. Suarez. And the last one is for Mr. Okedare. How does an organization ensure third-party vendors adhere to our security policies?
All right. For third-party vendors, when it comes to adherence with your cybersecurity policies or your cybersecurity initiatives, this must be stated when you are onboarding your third-party vendor. At the point where you are signing your engagement letters or your contract agreements, your cybersecurity policies or the things they need to observe or they need to adhere to when it comes to your own cybersecurity initiatives must be stated. And for example, let's take a deeper dive into physical security. When they are coming into your building, for example, they are coming to deliver laptops into your building, they need to sign the register right from the gate. They need to get the visitor's tag. From the visitor's tag, they also sign in all the serial numbers of the laptops that they are coming to deliver into the organization. And it still boils down to the culture. How is your organization upholding the cybersecurity culture right from the gate till they exit your entire building? So if, for example, there's a dead man door and no piggybacking is allowed, for example, they need to follow the same way, irrespective that they are vendors. And some may say, what about vendors that do not even come into my premises physically? Right? So now there's something we call right to audit clause should be included in that contract of agreement that you're having with that service cloud provider or that online third-party vendor that is providing a service for your organization. And for example, the periodic checks that you must do as an organization, you must do it on a periodic basis. That will ensure that even the cybersecurity initiatives that you have put in place, it's been adhered to when it comes to every vendor or any third-party service provider that works with your organization. Include it right from your onboarding, right from your engagement contract. When you are onboarding them, re-emphasize the essence of those cybersecurity trainings that they may need to do or the cybersecurity protocols that they must follow when you are onboarding them within your organization. And trust me, if you insist on that, they are the ones providing a service to you. They are a vendor to you. They have to comply. They have to adhere with these cybersecurity initiatives that you have put in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Okedare. And the final one, sorry, over to you again, Mr. Suarez. Samaka is asking, there are cases where names on EFCC lists may not be the exact person you're searching for, as there are no images to verify properly. What do you do in that case?
In carrying out due diligence and background check, I understand there are constraints. Like I said, you cannot get 100% clean result when you carry the background check because of the condition of Nigeria per se. We are not really cyber dependent in Nigeria. We're not tech driven as such in our operations, particularly in the public sector. So I would say that when you collect information normally from your employment forms that your potential employee fills up, you can look at where the person is schooled, where the person has lived before. With that, you can know the geographic area where the person has spent most of their life as an adult. Then you can, if you don't find anything specifically on our website or from the news sources or media sources online, I would advise that you write to every EFCC zonal command or zonal office in every state or geopolitical zone where that employee has lived or schooled to confirm if we have had any case or the person has any case or issue of arrest or conviction with us. We will respond if you write to us. We'll check our records and we can find that out and respond to you. I mean, it's a public office, so it's within your right to ask for such information. Since Nigeria has reduced to be tech-driven to develop a criminal database, so you can do that. So you can write if you don't find anything convincing online to get more information on a potential employee. So you can do that. We'll respond.
Thank you so much. I will just take this final question. We're a bit spent for time. Any of our panelists can answer. What plans can businesses put in place to ensure continuity in the event of a major cyber incident? Mr. Okedere, are you okay to take this question, please, so we can just round up?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Okay. First, you need to put in place an incident response plan as well as a well-detailed business continuity plan and disaster recovery plan. And how do you do that? You start by doing a business impact analysis that identify your critical assets and the risk that can negatively impact on those various assets. Then you determine your possible downtimes that can affect these various assets. That will help you to develop a robust business continuity and a disaster recovery plan. And when that is developed, that plan is communicated to all subject matter staffs, whether they are resident within the IT function or they are outside the IT function, so that they know their responsibilities. They know what to do should, in case a cyber incident or a cyber attack happens. So whether it's a false positive or it's a direct penetration on your IT environment, each of those subject matter experts know how to respond rapidly to those threats or to those successful attacks as it can be. Then next, you must periodically test those plans, because when you don't test the plan, the day the incident happens, there is no way you will respond timely to it, and it can lead to undue downtime of your entire IT infrastructure. So testing these plans and documenting the lessons learned from those tests will significantly help you to know where there are weaknesses, what we can do better, and the day an incident finally happened, how can we quickly recover from such an incident. So putting in place a well-documented incident response plan, a business continuity plan, and a disaster recovery plan will surely help you from recovering from an incident if it finally crystallizes in your IT environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Okedere. Mr. Ghazali, can you go ahead? Can you make it brief so we can round up? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. For me, just briefly, I want to just mention something very nice to third-party vendor. One of the things that we also need to put in our checklist is to have what we call independent or independent assessment of the third-party vendor. Apart from the SLAs that we must have spelled out in our agreement, like platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, or software as a service, to have what we call independent audit report of that particular third-party vendor. And to wrap up on the BCP and DRP, as earlier stated, it is very important for every organization to all disaster recovery plan. The first thing is to do what we call RPO. RPO is called recovery point objective. For every organization, you must know at what point the backup must have been dealt with. The next thing is to call recovery time objective, because you must understand what is the minimum or the maximum time down RTO. They are very important in business continuity plan and disaster recovery plan, because as important as testing and documentation is, recovery point objective and recovery time objective is very important, because staff that are in charge of recovery activities will not know at what point do we need to recover our activity. They will not know what is the acceptable downtime. Very much.
You're muted, Mr. Ghazali.
No, I said thank you very much. I'm done. I've stated my point.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who's joined. I'm sure we've learned so much. I have learned a lot personally. I saw over 100 people on this call. Thank you so much for making time out of your busy schedule to attend this session. And thank you to our distinguished panelists for making our time to help decipher this topic. It was great hearing you speak. And we were so excited to learn from your wealth of expertise. I just have a few announcements. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome.
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you so much. Just have a few announcements before you leave the call. We spoke about cybersecurity a lot, trainings, culture. And what we do at AACAS is basically, to provide trainings and courses across topics surrounding fraud and corruption. And we do have a course on cybersecurity for organizations looking to train their staff. We have also a general fraud awareness training course. And like our panelists mentioned, it's very important to tailor the courses to organization, and that's what we do at AACAS. We tailor the courses to your specific needs. So if you have a need for these courses, can you reach out to us, any one of us on the team? We can basically send an email to info@aacas.com, and we will be sure to reach out to you ahead of your 2025 plan, so you can put us into those plans. So we have the AACAS Advanced Diploma in Fraud Examination training coming up on the 12th to 15th of December 2024. Alongside this, we have the CFE exam review course as well. For those who are yet to be certified, please take the opportunity to get certified on this particular course. Is very important. It's a global certification recognized worldwide. If you have any questions, can you reach out to us? We'll be glad to answer your questions. So the next Breakfast Roundtable date will be communicated. We actually have something very, very big coming up in November, and we will be excited to share with you then. We'd just love you to, anticipate and keep your ears peeled for when we, communicate this to you. We also have the masterclass on advanced investigation techniques, bordering on two topics. One, when investigation goes wrong, safeguarding your fraud investigations, and financial intelligence and analysis. It comes up on the 1st of November and on the 31st, of November and December the 1st. 2024. For those of us who are looking to renew our CFE memberships, or would just like take a training to refresh our minds, kindly sign up for that. You can reach out to Emmanuel, or you can send an email to info@rablowoods.com. As you know, we are one, and both AACAS and Rablowoods are sister companies. Kindly reach out to Emmanuel or send an email to info@rablowoods.com. We also have our facility, the state-of-the-art and training spaces available for rent. We have a library, we have a theater-style space, we have another class upstairs, we have workspaces available for rent. So if you're looking to, rent any one of them, kindly reach out to us. We have 24/7 power supply, high-speed internet, and basically our environment is a very serene environment designed for focus and growth. And we offer all of this at an affordable price. Please do follow us on all our social media pages for more updates from us. And thank you so much. I can still see 95 people on the call. This means so much. I'm sure we spent over 15 minutes of your time, but we're so glad you joined and benefited from this conversation. I know a lot of us are joining from Zambia, from Lagos, from Ogun State, from Ibadan. We're so glad you joined us. Thank you so much, and do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.